I asked my boss to type row, row, row your boat, and he says, like, no, I'll type the Gettysburg Address. Okay, so we're going to try the Gettysburg Address.
Okay.
We're going to see that. And as you get started, right?
You want me to start?
Yeah, please do. I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure that you're doing that. We're going to try to get a friend of yours on the phone and see if you can do two things at, Foursquare. I know this. Yeah.
You've heard that
Foursquare. Okay, so maybe that's not that hard. Okay, so we're going to try to get the president and CEO of the Cleveland Clinic, who just made some news today, Toby Cosgrove, on the phone. And let's see if we can get Toby. Toby, are you there?
Yeah, of course I'm here.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Hi, Toby.
Hey, Toby.
Hi, how are you, Alan?
So, Toby, I would love it if you tried to distract Alan here and just have a normal conversation and, maybe tell us a little bit about what just happened that made the news. Yeah.
Well, I've always looked forward to this because I think this is my opportunity to interview rather than be interviewed. So I'm going to start right out with some questions. Alan, congratulations. You just got a new job, right?
I did about 6 months ago. Thank you for saying so.
Congratulations. Now, how many editors work for you?
Well, there are about close to 1,000 journalists.
Well, you stopped
so it's a
typing
big
here.
credit. Yeah, I'm multitasking.
Great war.
Now, are you going to have to reorganize those guys?
Yeah, no, we've done some reorganization already.
How many did you fire?
That's not a fair question, Toby. How many people have you fired at the Cleveland Clinic?
I never fire anybody.
All right, Toby, I have to interrupt for a second. I have to interrupt a second to explain that for what you can't see is that the computer is not going on the screen. So this is one of those things that you plan for in conferences again and again, and you don't know.
It's not showing? They can't see it?
No, they can't see that, but I can tell them that you stopped after the while.
Why am I doing this? I'm pretty good. I'm making great progress, and no one can see it.
But now we are engaged in a great war. Testing.
Yeah.
Okay, but for a while there. So, Toby, keep going, because I can tell you, as your witness here, that we've stopped. You seem to have paused here a little bit.
Well, I'm just, you want to try and see if you can, because I want people to see the good work I did while Toby was asking me embarrassing questions.
No, wait a minute. It's my.
Oh,
there we
go. Yay.
Give me a chance here.
All right, keep going.
Now, Alan, you're on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, Lincoln.
Why? Are you looking for a job?
Why, Lincoln looking for a job?
LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Not everyone on LinkedIn is looking for a job. I'm actually on LinkedIn.
I just thought I'd ask.
Well, are you on LinkedIn?
No.
No, really?
So how many books? You've written what? 4 books?
4 books. Have you read them all?
Yeah, I have, and I just want to know which your favorite.
Showdown at Gucci Gulch.
Really, and why
Yes. Because no, wait, I'm a little confused here. It was about the Tax Reform Act of 1986. It's still in print. You can get it on Amazon.com. Go there right now.
I did. It's $3.95.
Yeah. No, that's not true. In hardback, it's actually significant. You're really, geez, you're.
Wait a minute now. But, I mean, you got 3 Pulitzer Prizes when you worked for the Wall Street Journal. What have you done since that? That was in
Thank you,
83.
Toby.
What have you been doing since that time?
I'm sorry. Ask the question again.
Well, you had 3 Pulitzer Prizes when you worked at the Wall Street Journal or at the Washington Post. What happened since then? How many?
No, keep typing.
Keep writing. Okay. No, that was it. That was it. I'm in the magazine business. They don't give Pulitzers to magazines, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, so you didn't like that, huh?
No, I like that a lot. Toby, how are you? Why are you selling the company?
This is my interview here. I'm talking to you. You're typing.
Okay.
Now, what kind of a magazine is extra crispy and macho?
It's cooking. It's a social. It's recipes over social networks for cooking. You must use it.
Toby,
I don't cook. We assemble.
Your wife was here earlier. Somebody's got to cook for you, Toby.
Yeah, I need all the help I can get. There's no question about that. She's the smartest.
I have totally lost the Gettysburg Address.
Okay,
really?
I see. So I'm going to stop. Toby, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
What have we proved?
We have proved that the Gettysburg Address has a doctor joke in it. How many doctors does it take to change a light bulb? Depends on whether the light bulb has the health insurance. Very well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was for you, Toby.
That was a perfect lesson for what we're about to look at. Thank you very much, Alan Murray. Please thank Alan. Yeah.
Now I know I would have rather done the virtual reality demonstration.
So here are some frightening stats. The average person checks email 74 times a day. So how many of you are checking right this minute? I see someone taking notes. We've got somebody checking emails, somebody checking emails, somebody. Okay, so that's incredible. The average person apparently will spend 2 years of their life on Facebook. Anyone believe that? I didn't believe it either. Okay. A decade ago, we switched our attention span every 3 minutes. Now we do it every 45 seconds. So that's 566 times per day. So our next expert, a Braistorm Health alum, has written a book about why our brains are not designed to multitask or even bitask. And it's called The Distracted Mind, Ancient Brains in a High-Tech World. He is the recipient of the 2005 Society for Neurosciences Science Educator Award. And to explain why our experiment went so horribly awry here, or actually worked, we should say, please welcome Dr. Adam Gazzaley.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here again this year. I'm going to share with you, over the next 10 minutes, exactly what happened in Alan's brain and how we can improve it. No, I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to do is give you a little glimpse over a very brief time into how our brains, all of our brains, deal with this. And when I say this, I'm not just talking about this explosion in diversity and accessibility of information technology, but really how we use it. And we just saw a beautiful example of that. 95% of people report multitasking every day, and it's almost a third of our day occupied in that. And if you're a younger person, it could be up to 7 devices at a time. But it's not even just how we use it, it's where we use it, right? This has pervaded every aspect of our lives. It's in our bathrooms, it's in our bedrooms, it's in our classrooms, our restaurants, it goes on vacation with us. And it has been accompanied by a shift in expectations to 24/7 productivity and availability. At our really core, from an evolutionary perspective, we are information-seeking creatures. And we see that it's changed the way we interact with each other, our environments, and the way we interact with ourselves. And this could be comical, as you see in some of these examples, or even in the demo that we just did, or it could be devastating, right, in this most classic of all distracted mind examples. So let's just take a couple moments and talk about what's happening here, right? What's happening in here is the question. And so neuroscientists, my own lab and many others, have been studying the processes that we call cognitive control. And these are the set of mental abilities that enable us to interact in this complicated world that we live in based on our goals. And I look at this as being a triad of abilities that start with attention. It's how we could direct our limited mental resources where in space and time we want them to be based on our goals. Working memory, which is holding this information in short periods of time just to bridge events together. And then what we call goal management, which is when you have more than one goal, which we frequently do. So task switching or multitasking many events. Now, as amazing as these abilities are, they have fundamental limitations that, interestingly enough, are not very different from those of other animals. We see the same type of limitations. Our attention, although we can direct it, is still susceptible to distraction from very strong environmental stimuli. And we can't distribute our attention like throwing a net out into the ocean. Our working memory, we have a degradation in the resolution of that information compared to when we're perceiving it. And goal management, with each switch between a task, and when we attempt to multitask, there's a degradation, a cost in our performance and the accuracy and the speed. And you saw a perfect example of that today. Who here has tried to been on a conference call and emailed at the same time? I know it's like a guilty thing. You feel the guilt doing it because you could feel the burden. Okay, so these are the limitations. But then there are our goal-setting abilities. And I would say this is the pinnacle of human brain evolution. Our ability to set amazing goals, time-delayed goals, goals that could be decades in the future, and interwoven with other goals and other people and their goals. And so we have these very high-level goal-setting abilities. It might be going to med school someday, or it might even just be trying to write something and have a phone call at the same time. And they collide head-first with these limitations in our cognitive control abilities to create what we consider interference. This interference is sort of the hallmark of the distracted mind. technology has not created this interference, but it has most certainly aggravated it just due to the unprecedented amount of information exposure that we have right now. And so that's why I consider us ancient brains in a high-tech world. The interference in many experiments from both our labs and others have shown that this propagates across every aspect of how our brain works, from our perception, our decision-making, both long-term and short-term memory, and even our emotional regulation. And then that cascades into an influence on how we act in the real world. From our safety, I gave you a very, the classic example of driving, texting, using even a mobile phone, our sleep and its impact, we talked about that a lot last year. Relationships, even having a cell phone on another table, not your table, has been shown to decrease the empathy of that conversation and that's generated by that conversation you're having with someone important to you. Education, we see it in kids, not just on how they perform in the classroom, but how their studying is performed outside of the classroom. And of course, the workplace. Many examples of decrease in performance, productivity, quality, and an increase in stress. All right. We're halfway through. How do we take control of this? And I'm just going to give you just a very brief, just a brief preview of some of the things that we might be able to do. I see two real pathways to deal with the distracted mind. The first is to modify our behavior, and the second is to actually enhance the function of our brains. Not necessarily like in this terrifying way, I just really like that picture. Okay, so how do we modify our behavior? Well, this is complicated because we know that we first need to start with an awareness, and that's hopefully what I just gave you a quick snapshot of. We have to appreciate where our limitations are and the burden that we face having these limitations in our cognitive control. So I'd say that's step one. That gives you the motivation to then manage it. But it's not enough, right? We know that information like smoking and sun exposure doesn't prevent us from engaging in those activities. We then need to have a plan and a strategy to go about it. And there are really three aspects that I think are under our control. And not easy, but the three things that we can start shaping our lives to do better at. The first is accessibility. We could decrease the accessibility to technology in many, many different ways of doing that. One thing that's worth noting is that I wouldn't say that multitasking is a bad thing. It's almost certainly more fun just because of its novelty load. I think what's more important is to make informed decisions about how you interact with the world based on an understanding of where your limitations lie. So if you're going to do something that demands the highest possible quality, especially something that has a time signature associated with it, then I would say we would all agree in our field that the best way to produce the highest quality output is to single task. To do one thing, to shut down your email, I have to literally quit it because if it's just minimized, I will check it almost like subconsciously. You have to maybe turn your phone off, quit a browser, close your door, decrease, minimize your environment. And then, so what I do is I will say, okay, I'm going to single task for an hour today because I have a paper due, and then I'm going to put an hour at multitasking. And here I'm going to do all those low-level things, none of which are super critical, and help and just get them done because I would never do them one at a time. Then there's these two other factors that drive us to multitask in a very fundamental core way. One is boredom. I would say that we just have a lower tolerance to being bored now. Even waiting online at a supermarket, I mean, it's not that long until you have to get there. Who pulls out their phone in just that, 45 seconds, right? We just don't have, and it's even worse for younger people, a very high tolerance for being bored. We need to be constantly stimulated by information. Same thing happens at a red light, right? You probably have felt this. And then anxiety, both FOMO, fear of missing out, but also performance anxiety. And so how do you manage arousal and anxiety when you're trying to single task? And this is complicated, and a long story is involved in describing the strategy, but one approach is to baby step into single tasking. It's not something that just comes naturally. You have to develop these skills. And the way to do that is just to set periods of time, maybe only 5 minutes start with, and then take a break. And not every break is equal. A break of going on Facebook is like this, sinkhole that you just further and further move away from your goals. So breaks like exposure to nature, breaks like physical exercise, meditative style of mindfulness practices. These are all things that could be very powerful for very short periods of time and then back to your goals. The other way is to, and obviously there's a lot more details there, but just a little details on that. Enhancing our brain. And I'm not even going to read through all these. I sort of touch on all these in the book, and there's data for all of them. not a ton of data. I'd say physical exercise is right up there on the top of ways to decrease the distracted mind or manage it. Another interesting approach that I am fascinated with is using technology to help improve our distracted mind, sort of flipping the story around. And across all of these areas, there's examples of technology that's sort of being repurposed. And I'd say we're at a pivotal stage in our technology growth. And I think it's an important lesson, around the world, certainly at Silicon Valley, is that if you're building technology and you're not taking into account the human condition, I think it's a mistake. There's plenty of ways to make profits and be a successful company, pausing before you produce something and say, does this actually help us? Does this really harness what most makes us human? And I think that there's a lot we can do to improving our distracted minds using technology. I just want to conclude with one mention of what was really the entire focus of my demo that I did here last year, which is the use of customized video games that we create both at our center at UCSF and a company that I started at Achille. And the goal is to actually improve brain function by harnessing our plasticity through interactive media. We already have some data that shows some success in this. For the context of the distracted mind, I just want to mention that we now have a study with this game, EVA. We had Sanjay Gupta playing it last year on stage, which is now in a phase 3 trial, so it's an FDA trial, to have this approved for the ultimate distracted mind, children with ADHD. This trial will complete this year, and then we might be looking at the first ever non-drug treatment for ADHD and the first prescribable video game. So hopefully we'll see that by the end of the year, and really raising the interesting question of how tech can be used sort of to combat the burden that it has really created in a lot of ways. So that's just a little bit about what I talk about in the book, but I encourage you to reach out to me if you're interested in this topic. And I also just wanted to put up a shout out to our new center at UCSF called Neuroscape, where our goal is really to bridge at the highest way technology and neuroscience to have a positive impact on our minds. There's a link to our website there, and I'll be around for the next couple of days. I'm more than happy to talk to you about this topic. Thank you.